Yes.
Want me to drop this mic?
Here's Ricardo.
All right, we're going to call this meeting to order at 4:02. Let's start with Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Nicole Leslie.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, all right. Start off with today's meeting was motioned and seconded by Raymer and Brad. All five agreed. Had conference with labor negotiations. Direction was given to staff. I need approval of the minutes for Tuesday, December 8th. Can I get a motion in a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Student advisory vote? Aye. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carried 5-0. All right, also need a motion for our emergency meeting on Wednesday, December 30th, special meeting minutes. Motion second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Student, I will abstain since you weren't here. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Very good. All right, so first we have reports to the board. Metro C Line G Extension Project. Presented by Dolores Roybal Salterini, Deputy Executive Officer, and Mark Durking, Community Relations Manager. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dolores Roybal Saltarelli, and I'm the project manager for this environmental study that's underway. And I'm here with Mark Durking from our Community Relations, as well as Isaiah Ford, who's on our consulting side, helping us with this endeavor. I have a very short presentation that I can go over, and then happy to answer any questions. With that, I'll share my screen. And let's see. Isaiah says the host needs to allow me to screen share, I guess.
There you go, you should have access now.
Wonderful, thank you. And I'll start here from the beginning. Bear with me, there we go, wait, hold on a minute. All right. Some of you may be very familiar with this project. We're just initiating the environmental process, as I mentioned, and we're really looking at addressing some of these project goals. One, with providing regional and local access to the South Bay area, looking at an alternative transportation option for those living in the community and trying to get to the community, and really encouraging different mobility options in general. Project history, this effort started in 2010. We had some Measure R dollars at that point where we looked at a 4.6 mile extension of the existing Green Line extension, that's a Green Line project that's in operation. At that time, it included up to 4 stations. At the conclusion of that effort, we did have to pause the study because due to lack of funding. With the passage of Measure M, we were able to proceed with the supplemental analysis, alternative analysis that was concluded in 2018. And in that effort, we looked at a light rail extension of the Green Line, and it included 3 additional alternatives. And we also included 3 stations in that phase of the project. During that supplemental alternative analysis, many of you may have participated in the community outreach effort. At that time, we heard some very key items regarding quality of life, transportations, and connectivity of the proposed stations and the surrounding communities. This map shows our existing network that's in operation or under construction. With the extension of the Green Line into the cities of Lawndale, Redondo Beach, and Torrance, we have an opportunity to provide some local connectivity, but also some regional connectivity to the Crenshaw LAX line that's under construction, as well as the various venues, sporting venues in the city of Inglewood, and a direct connection to the LAX airport, which would be including a people mover that's currently under construction. During a supplemental alternative analysis, as I mentioned, there were 4 alternatives that were considered for study and comment. 2 were within our metro-owned right-of-way, and those are highlighted in the light and dark green, as you see on the map on the right side, as well as 2 alternatives on Hawthorne Boulevard, and those are distinguished in purple and magenta. All 4 alternatives south of 190th Street have the same alignment, and they all end at the Torrance Transit Center. Based on the outcome of that study, including very robust community outreach, the board directed Metro to move forward with the environmental study, which is what we've initiated now, and include 2 alternatives in the environmental process. One along the Metro Railroad right-of-way, which is highlighted in aqua, and another alternative on Hawthorne Boulevard that's highlighted in magenta. Both of those alternatives south of 190th Street have the same alignment as it did before, ending at the Torrance Transit Center. Based on community input and board direction as well, we went from 3 stations to 2 and removed the station in the city of Lawndale per that effort. In this phase of the study, we're looking at 2 alternatives, and the next few slides will go in depth into alternative 1, which is along the Metro right-of-way. These are sort of the key elements that were described at the conclusion of the supplemental alternative analysis that we'll be studying now, and also, welcoming additional comments through the scoping period that will be initiated at the end of the month. The key elements are the following: an overcrossing at Manhattan Beach Boulevard and Inglewood Avenue, a transition to at-grade from 162nd to 107th Street, at-grade segment, and looking at various opportunities for active transportation elements, as well as some additional landscaping. And this alternative, as I mentioned earlier, would include 2 stations, one at the Redondo Beach Transit Center and one at the City of Torrance at the Torrance Transit Center. The next cross-section is what was shared back in 2018, just to show visually what the extension of the Green Line would look like in an aerial configuration next to the BNSF rail right-of-way that currently operates, as well as including a potential path, active transportation path with a landscape buffer in that location. The Hawthorne Boulevard alignment, again, these are sort of the key elements that were included at the end of the supplemental effort, includes the following: an aerial alignment along the I-405, transitioning to Hawthorne Boulevard at grade from 162nd to 166th Street, including in this effort a grade separation analysis at both Redondo Beach Boulevard and Artesia Boulevard, transitioning to aerial south of 182nd Street to cross over 186th and 190th Streets. Proposed stations include the South Bay Galleria Redondo Beach Transit Center, as well as a station at the Torrance Transit Center. We've included another typical cross-section that was shared back in 2018, again in the city of Lawndale, just for looking south. And this shows the extension of the light rail at the median of Hawthorne Boulevard, sharing the existing right-of-way with north and southbound traffic, as long as pedestrians on either side. This is another typical cross-section south of 190th, where both alignments are the same. And we're looking at the extension of the Green Line and looking at shifting the existing BNSF right-of-way so that both projects can coexist safely. This would be a combined right-of-way configuration, and of course pending various conversations with BNSF and as well as the community. As I mentioned, we're just starting this environmental process, looking at understanding the 2 alternatives under study, having an understanding of any potential impacts, benefits, challenges, so that we have a very good analysis so that we could inform the community and have the community inform the process as well. In this effort, we look at all of the topics identified in front of you, really have an opportunity to have an understanding of what they are and how this project will or not impact these various areas. Next steps, we're in the early stages of outreach. We really wanted to have an opportunity to reintroduce ourselves and the project. We do have the scoping period scheduled for the end of this month, January 29th through March 15th. This is a period of time where we would really like to receive and hear from you and others as we initiate this study. We have 2 scoping meetings planned, February 24th through the 27th. These will be virtual in order to adhere to our current stay-at-home order. And we anticipate completing the draft environmental impact report of spring of 2022. Typically, a final environmental document takes 9 to 12 months. So looking at releasing that winter, spring of 2023, my apologies. Per Measure M, we're looking at a groundbreaking of 2026 with an opening of anywhere between 2030 and 2023 as included in Measure M. We are aware of the desire to be cognizant of doing any type of acceleration, really to adhere to the Olympics, being planned for 2028. That's something that, is still under consideration. And that's something that we would get further information on, that we would come back and share with everybody here. With that concludes the presentation. This has my contact information as well as the project, and happy to answer any questions.
in your original sheet that had the 4 alternatives, there's 1 and 2. One is overcrossing, the other is undercrossing. Which was the one that was chosen that's now called alternative 1 on the other chart that shows the 2 that you ended up with? So that one there, is that the overcrossing or the undercrossing option of the metro right-of-way?
So the conclusion of the supplemental, the way that one of the key elements here was looking at the overcrossing at Manhattan Beach Boulevard and Inglewood Avenue. If you wanted us to study something different, please feel free to provide comments as we initiate the scoping period at the end of this month. And this is something that you can do either at the meetings that are scheduled in February, either the 24th or the 27th, or you could do prior, through sending it through our email.
And who determines if they can do it in time for the Olympics? Is that Board of Supervisors or Metro?
Yes, it's something that, as you know, this is one of the pillar projects that we call them, one of 4 projects that ideally the board would like us to pursue so that we're prepared for the Olympics in 2028. We're still very much in discussions over that particular goal, as we, among many agencies, have been impacted by our current pandemic situation, which has, impacted many of our planning and resources and schedules. And so this is something that we will revisit with the board as well as the public as we proceed with this project and many other projects.
Sounds good. Any other questions? Thank you guys for your time today. We appreciate it. You have a good afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Charles, you're up.
Oh, thank you. Hello, everyone. I hope you all had a great break and a great holiday with your families. So before the break, I completed the first online Zoom meeting with the young leaders of RBUSD. And so essentially, Ms. Mata and I ran them through various activities on a Zoom call. And we discussed essentially the level of connection that the students feel to their school environment. And then we talked about ideas of how to increase that connection for the future. And the students seemed to really enjoy it. They really liked the interactive activities, especially the younger ones too. And they really liked being involved with changing the connection to their school. I will be hosting our next meeting at the end of the month on January 28th. Any questions?
No, I'm glad you got a chance to start connecting with them. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you. Dr. Keller.
All right, I have a few things. Happy New Year, everybody. And just wanted to kind of recap our holiday experiences. We had 14 events where we had a centralized experience, winter holiday experience with our staff. So we met with every staff, gave away prizes, showed a video, had live experience, about 20 minutes in total. We gave away over $15,000 in prizes. We also gave away about $5,000 total to multiple, what we call staff members that needed a pinch of holiday cheer. And so I want to let you know we gave away a lot of money to people just for the heck of it and the fun of it, and also for people in need, our staff members that are having a tough time financially. And then we also had Project Unified, which provided more than $10,000 worth of gifts. I don't want to say gifts, but essential needs for families in our community that needed a little bit more during this holiday. So I just want to, again, applaud our district for everything they do for the people of this community, for kids, for families, for staff. It really does highlight our ethic of care, and I'm very proud of that, and I'm going to continue to mention that everywhere I go. All right, shifting here. Regarding vaccinations, this seems to be a very big topic in the world and locally, and so I just want to walk through a few updated pieces of information that I wanted to share with you today. We are working closely with Beach City South District. I just want you to know that. We have a great relationship over the last decade plus. We want to do everything we can to manage the vaccination process specifically for our staff members. And so our goal is to control it, streamline it, systemize it, and manage it as best we can to be efficient and get as many shots in as many of our staff members' arms as we can as quickly as possible. That's our ultimate process. We realize that we're dealing with other bureaucracies in this process. As you know, educators are part of Phase 1B of the tiered process, of the phase process, excuse me, Phase 1B, Tier 1. That's when educators are planned to be receiving the vaccination. Currently, we're in the Phase 1A of the vaccination, which is the priority list, and we all know who those people are, and they're currently receiving the vaccination locally and throughout the U.S. Our immediate goal is to educate our employees. This is a big piece, is to educate our employees regarding the benefits, the safety, and the potential side effects of the vaccination, and to get these vaccinations in the arms of our staff members as soon as possible. Ricardo is working with Allie from Beach City South District to schedule these education experiences for our staff members using local experts, medical doctors, professionals, Dr. Kuo, Dr. Kim, those type of folks that really know this vaccination, the medical piece as well as the process. And so we want to bring in the right people and the people that our folks, our staff members would be most comfortable with receiving this information. We want to answer those questions that our staff members have because obviously we want as many, highest percentage possible for our staff members to take this vaccination. I'm going to pivot a little here because what we're learning as of yesterday is as much as we want to control this process, because that's what we do, and I like to do that, because I know we own it and we can be agile, and if we make a mistake, we'll own it, we'll fix it, we'll make it better. We're learning that the county is just gradually providing us information where staff members can go and get this vaccination, which is great. We're fine with that. So what we're learning is that, for example, and I'm going to show you a picture here in a second, that health clerks, for example, we found out yesterday, health clerks and our nurses could receive the vaccination this week. And so what I wanted to show you is actually one person right here, Catherine. Catherine Granger, a health office assistant at Jefferson Elementary, today received her vaccination. And so this was a surprise to us. I mean, if you would have asked us a week ago, we would have thought our folks, including Catherine here, would be a few weeks out. By the way, I have a quote from Catherine, if you don't mind. And she got the Moderna vaccination today at the Crenshaw Recreation Center. Catherine shared with us, super easy peasy, and I'm honored to be able to receive this vaccination. Hopefully this is one step closer to getting our students back onto campus. My point here is that we're going to do two things. We're going to be agile for this helter-skelter county approach to vaccinating our employees, and we'll be ready, and whatever that means, however we need to do it, we will do it. In the meantime, we're going to plan and educate our staff members for a more organized and a cleaner system to actually administer the vaccination. So I just want to make sure you understand that I don't necessarily think we're going to be able to control it as much as we thought. We hope to work closely with Beach City South District as well as our two neighboring Beach City communities, but we'll be agile and ready for both. So that's the big piece I wanted to share with you about the vaccination. And thank you to Catherine. By the way, did you notice her hat and her shirt? She had the Jefferson and the RBUSD garb on. All right, change of subject. I want to remind folks that, when we talk about transmission of COVID, we are getting ready and been ready for the return of our students as well as any district. I mean, we're going to provide you more information today in a presentation about our readiness, but we really want folks to know, families to know that we need our families and our staff members at home to follow the health orders and travel orders. So minimize or eliminate interactions with folks outside of your home, minimize or eliminate your travel outside of your immediate community. We need our community's support in this process. We cannot do it alone. And so I say this often, as that Team RBUSD continues to be ready, safe to return to campus, but what happens beyond the sidewalks that surround our schools obviously impact us and our schools and our campuses. So the relationship or the synergy between school and community has never been more evident and more important. So please, everybody at home, do your part. Staff members, please do your part. We can't do it alone. We can't just do it at our school sites. All right, governor's budget. Budget is out. It's been published. This is just the beginning, and we are unpacking the details, and we'll learn more in the days and weeks ahead. It's just the first part of the process, and Dr. Alpern will keep us apprised along the way. And just a reminder that Monday is our country's celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, and I hope everyone takes the time to reflect on his message and his legacy, and that still resonate today while enjoying the day off. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to now segue back to 7.2, that we would start off and then kind of interconnect everything together. So we're going to go to 7.2, review of safety protocols for TK through 2. Dr. Alpern, Dr. Wesley, Dr. Wilds, and Dr. Keller as well. So
Great. And so what we're going to do is just kind of review and just hit on some of the key points that we've shared at multiple board meetings and special sessions, Q&As, and everywhere else. I want to thank the team for getting ready for the return to the hybrid. And so all this information is provided to you on our website, www.rbusd.org. Click on the 2020-2021 reopening schools. And this is the actual front page. We debated pretty heavily just for this front page of this document. You have no idea. The substance in it is the most important, but I will tell you a lot of time and effort went on to picking this page. And so I want to thank Dr. Wilds for the winning front page. I really want to emphasize that each of these schools submitted a TK2 waiver for reopening protocols for schools. So this is not a district application. This is an individual school site application where they have to provide the intimate details that follow all protocols and guidance from LA County Department of Public Health. This is not, again, a one-size-fits-all. Every school has its nuances, its unique experiences at their campus. And so we want to make sure you understand that each and every one of these elementary schools have been approved. This is not a district approval. And so with that, I'm going to have Dr. Alpern take it from here.
Yes. So in regards to our health and safety protocols, we never get tired of talking about this, and we're really prepared. So we have face coverings. We have probably 15,000, we have over 100,000 masks sitting in our warehouse, ready for use, not just on the first day that students return, but for the remainder of the school year. So we have plenty of face coverings. Face coverings will be enforced for everyone. We have lots of other personal protective equipment that is available for staff at sites. And we have signage, messaging, directional walkways, one-way walkways on all of our campuses. We have stickers on our floors outside of every entrance to each elementary school, as well as directional stickers within and among the campus. We have bathrooms working with hand sanitizing stations. We have sinks in every elementary classroom with towels and soap, and our teachers are really going to be working hard with students on teaching them the proper hand washing protocols. We have strict health screenings for all students and all staff. At the elementary level, we also have the temperature checks at our entrances, in addition to the use of the app that we use for entrance to school. We have our communal water fountains are closed off on all of our campuses, indoors and outdoors, and the eating of snacks or meals is really to take place outside with very little exception. Dr. Wesley is going to take this next slide.
Just to continue with making sure that our classrooms and schools are sanitized and clean, we have the use of PC30 and Super 60. They're both food grade disinfectants. We created a video that was sent out to all staff showing them how to use it, and it will be used between classes and after school when rooms are disinfected at the end of each day. Our playground structures and equipment are also disinfected frequently, and they are in use. Our restrooms are being cleaned at the top of the hour, and that's both student restrooms and faculty, both within offices, outside. And that way we know that staff members can be assured that restrooms are clean. And just in addition to that, we do have signs on our restrooms showing maximum occupancies, especially our staff restrooms, so that they're aware of how many people can be in there at once. Our classroom teachers and our office staff have been provided the disinfectant spray, again, along with the video on how to use it. And that's being sprayed on the high-touch areas and the desks in between classes and at the end of the classes. As you can see here, our HVAC units and heating systems have the MERV 13 filters. And when possible, we're encouraging that windows and doors be opened for the fresh air. We know that's the gold standard. When not, we do have the HVAC units. And, oh, sorry. For classroom and campus cleaning, we have the strict stable cohorts. Again, those have already been created, and we know that according to the Department of Public Health, there are no more than 12 students. We have 6 feet of physical distancing between desks. We've shown pictures of that, and that's the next bullet down. You can see visually where those spaces are. We are limiting the use of supplies between students. As Dr. Alpern stated, snack and recess, snacks should be eaten outside, and we have created, every principal has created a staggered schedule so that the arrival and dismissal times as well as the snack times allow for limited use, and students coming in and being dismissed, as well as any kind of recess areas being used to small groups of students at a time. In addition, our second to last bullet, we do not have any visitors on campus at this time. And now I'll be turning it over to Ms. Wilds.
Good afternoon, everybody. So part of our reopening protocol is to make sure that we are exceptionally mindful of all of the stories of our families. And what that means to us is that not one size is not going to fit all for our families. So our reopening protocols have included 2 learning options for our families. Option 1 is our hybrid learning. That's what's occurring right now in distance. And option 2, our online learning, our school's PLP independent study program. Option 1 includes students physically attending school 2 to 3 days per week. And this also includes some variety and some choice for our families. Students wanting to remain with their teachers. However, health concerns prohibit a return to in-person instruction at this time. And that's the key word here, at this time. They foresee possibly weeks, maybe a month or so down the road that they will be returning in person. Distance learning with both synchronous and asynchronous instruction on non-campus days. So we're really trying to increase our time for our students on campus. Option 2 has remained unchanged since the beginning. The students remain at home to learn with an online curriculum. The teachers assigned to monitor their progress and support learning and really kind of provide some emotional support, but this is more of an independent study model. So I wanted to dig in a little bit deeper into the option 1 because we have made some adjustments to option 1, allowing families to stay home at this time. So let's take a look at what this looks like. This is a data count, so please know this data is as of January 7th. And what our school sites asked our families is they asked families to recommit. They said, this is our plan for reopening. We're asking you, would you like to stay in option 1? Or would you like to move to option 2, which is school's PLP? We've had very, very minimal change to option 2. Our families love our teachers. They want to stay with our teachers. So what we did is we kind of broke out how many students at a given time would be on campus in cohort A, cohort B. So we really kind of get an idea of, again, at this time, at the time our families were asked, and this was primarily right before the winter break and during the winter break, how many of our families are saying, yes, on the first day of my child's cohort, I intend to send my child to school in person. And you can see, obviously, TK, we have 2 schools that house our TK program. We have approximately 60% of our TK families are saying they will be in person when the school doors reopen. 40% would like to remain home at this time. Again, we don't have schools PLP for TK, so that's a slight variant. For our kindergarten students, we have approximately 70% of our kindergarten families who are in option 1 are saying, I will be there when the doors open. Approximately 30% are going to be remaining at home at this time. First grade and second grade, it declines a little bit with the staying at home. We have approximately just under 80% of our families in first grade are saying, I will be there. And 21% are saying, I'm going to be at home at this time. And second grade drops even a little bit more. We have exactly 80% who are saying, I will be there, with 20% saying, we're not ready yet.
Dr. Wilds, can you clarify?
Sure.
At home? That means not on school's PLP, but staying at home,
Absolutely.
exercising their right to.
Absolutely. So if you kind of look back on option 1, that second bullet, students wanting to remain with their teacher, however, health concerns prohibit a return at this time. So there may be something going on with their families. Again, we don't know everybody's story. We know these families want their child to remain with their child's teacher. They have an intention to come back. However, it's probably not on this exact day. So we're giving our families the grace to make that decision. And so that's the pink columns you see there. Those are the families who are opting to stay in option 1, but they're not ready yet.
Approximately, what's the breakdown of families who chose option 1 versus 2?
It's low. I can pull those numbers for you and put it in the board update. From our numbers in kindergarten and first grade, we had very, very minimal. Kindergarten, it was a 2. In first grade, we had approximately 4 who opted to switch from 1 to 2. And again, these are families who are saying, listen, I know I'm not going to come back for the year. Second grade was slightly higher. I want to say the number's 14, but I can check downstairs in my office.
So it's like way, way under 5%.
Way under. Yeah, absolutely.
Any questions?
No, thank you, all 3.
Yep.
Or all 4, actually. Okay, moving on to the hearing section. I have 16 written requests, 3 of which want to be read publicly. And the board has copies of all of them in your Google Drive. I'll read those 3 in a second, and then we had 2 voicemails. Both voicemails indicated that they wanted us to postpone returning to the class. So we have 1 public comment, but he is asked to speak at 14.1, so we're going to delay him till that point. So, 3 public comments. First one is from Terry Thomas. I am very concerned about the lack of controls that will be in place at the schools. After listening to the Q&A, it's clear that RBUSD will be doing contact tracing after outbreaks and claims they'll ID the parents that caused it. We'll see. Anyways, since the district says it's not going to police students even when they know they are not keeping COVID restrictions in their home and daycares, I do not think I can support any in-person learning. Or in-person schooling, I should say. Next one. Members of the board, my name is Renee Sorgan, and I have 2 children at Jefferson Elementary. Again, regretfully, I'm asking you to postpone the start of K-2 in-person instruction for 2 weeks due to the rampant community transmission. Additionally, I'm asking you to consider strengthening the district's COVID protocols to provide greater safety and security for our families if and when we do return to campus, specifically related to off-campus adherence to county guidelines. Families who do not comply with county directives outside of school, families who host large indoor gatherings, who do not wear masks, will put my child, my children's teacher, and our family at risk during in-person instruction. I'm asking you to require that these families who elect in-person instruction sign a contract that commits them to following county COVID directives on and off campus. Add that question to the daily screening list. Has your families complied with all the COVID county directives, including mask wearing and prohibition on large indoor gatherings? require parents to attest that their answers to these questions are true, and impose consequences if families are not truthful. This is the only way our children can return to school safely and soon. Thank you. Last one, dear honorable board members and staff, I was really upset to hear Board Member Christensen say the last meeting that he didn't make a commitment to anyone. That was said after Board Member Serkin read letters from parents requesting for the board members to honor the commitments the school board has made to our children. I'm not sure what Christensen thought he was doing when he took an oath of office, where the actual mission of the school board reads, "We're committed to hiring, supporting, and promoting excellence and innovation in teaching and learning, maintaining high expectations for all students and staff, and ensuring safety and security and modernizing learning environments." His disregard to the parents' request for the district to honor the very mission they've set out clearly falls on deaf ears. His lack of empathy was a stark reminder that we need to have school board members take responsibility and have empathy that in these challenging times. It is clear that Mr. Christensen's social privilege has made him completely blind to the challenges that parents are having even when they're hearing them. He still has the gall to say, "I never made a commitment." I am thankful for an upcoming election where we can choose members who are empathetic to parents and families. I'm supporting Ralph Strossenberg and Margot Tron for school board. These two candidates have what it takes to move the district forward and understand the emotional challenges of it all. We already know that RBUSD will not be reopened on January 19th, as you've indicated in your last special board meeting. I know that you're being proactive in getting our kids back in school. And while 3 of you are on your way out, I hope you are relentlessly working until your last day in office to get these kids in school. Our community and our local economy is counting on you. In your efforts to promote excellence and innovation, the district should be providing free summer school to ensure our children catch up. Our kids have been without in-person instruction for 10 months. Please be innovative and plan for the future, since this year we cannot engage in in-person instruction this year. Your decisions impact my entire family and our community. Make them with your heart, and please discontinue the practice of telling people you didn't make a commitment to our families. Thank you, Candace and Joe Nafisi. All right. Having no other comments that wanted to be read, we will now move on to the communications section. Start off with RBTA.
Good afternoon. I'm Monica Joyce, President of the Redondo Beach Teachers Association. In the current memorandum of understanding between RBTA and the district, it is agreed that RBUSD will adhere to the guidelines set forth by the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health. Last Friday, the county issued a memo to the TK through grade 12 schools that in-person instruction, services, and activities should be suspended for the remainder of January. This must be done to protect the health and safety of our students and staff, and to follow California Labor Code, which requires that every employer shall do everything reasonably necessary to protect the life, safety, and health of its employees. It is urged that a metric be established for the safe return of students. Setting an arbitrary date to return is not measurable or a systematic measure. A metric is measurable and allows data to inform the decision to return. At this point, we are not where we had hoped we would be when we last met at the end of December. The situation is still bleak, with a level of transmission and 0% ICU capacity. We need to be patient. Our students are learning and progressing in virtual learning. Hope is around the corner. Today, our staff started to have access to the COVID-19 vaccine. In the coming weeks, we look forward to RBUSD employees being vaccinated. With that, we will be protected and will help stop the spread of this contagious virus. And we thank you always for listening to our concerns and for our collaborative relationship. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not aware of the CSEA or AFTs here, but if they are, they're welcome to come speak at any time. Any comments from PTA or RBF to read? I'm not aware of. Okay, hearing none. Let's move to general consent. Is there any items that anyone wishes to pull? Hearing none, can I get a motion and second to approve 10.1 to 10.3?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Student advisory vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hearing 5-0. Okay, moving on to action items. 12.1, collective bargaining agreement with CSEA, Chapter 57. Motion and second, please.
So moved?
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Wesley?
This is a tentative agreement reached with CSEA for the 2020-2021 reopener negotiations that we just completed. CSEA is going to be bringing this TA to their members this week, I believe tomorrow, for a ratification vote. So staff is recommending that the board adopt the negotiated agreement reached with CSEA.
Any questions? Hearing none, actually, let's see, this is for staffing, so we will skip student advisory vote on these. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. 12.3, initial proposal to Redondo Beach Unified School District to the RBTA. Motion and second, please.
So moved. Second.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Dr.
this is 12.2, and this is RBUSD's initial proposal to RBTA in order to open negotiations to negotiate the 21-22 school year calendar. And just as a reminder, the Sunshining and initial proposal is a 2-board meeting process, so I'll be coming back next week to ask you to adopt it. But this week, I'm asking you to please to publicly present the RBUSD Sunshine proposal.
Okay, any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. 12.3, approve the 2020-2021 benefits for classified employees. Motion and second, please.
So moved.
Thank you. Dr. Wesley?
Seems a little bit late to be asking for your approval on the benefit rates, but it goes along with the negotiations ending with their contract. So this is a recommendation to approve the benefit rate for CSEA. Thank goodness it hasn't changed with negotiations now that we have a signed contract agreement. So we are recommending that you approve the classified benefit rate sheet.
Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. 12.4, collective bargaining memorandum of understanding with RBTA regarding reopening schools in a COVID-19 environment. Motion and second.
So moved.
Second?
Dr. Wesley?
Since our last board meeting, we did meet with RBTA again, and so the reopening MOU that is on this board agenda does reflect some revisions that were made this last week, which are underlined in the MOU. We did agree to some changes that reflect substitute coverage for in-person teaching and the return of counselors on school campuses to some capacity. And so staff is recommending the approval of this amended MOU.
Questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hearing 5-0, motion carries. 13.1, unofficial attendance reports. Wish we could have these all year. Every year.
Virtual attendance.
Yeah, virtual attendance makes it a lot easier for people to come.
I did just want to point out, Mr. Waller had requested a summary for the month, and so we made an adjustment at the bottom of the report, and so you'll see that on a go-forward basis where the average for the month is included at the bottom.
Thank you very much for that.
All right, any comments or questions?
This is based on attendance, not disengaged learners are not represented in this, right?
Yeah, this is those who show up, so. All right, 14.1, return date for in-person instruction for TK2 waiver, vulnerable population, athletics, and PSAT. Who would like to start, or should I have Rolf come up first?
Your call.
Ricardo, you want to invite Rolf up here? So. Yeah, we're ready for.
Good afternoon, members of the board, Superintendent Keller, and staff. My name is Rolf Curtis Strutzenberg. I have a third grade son at Toledo, and my younger son is TK age, but he's not in the TK program. And my wife is a teacher. The burden and duty of leadership are on you right now like you have never seen, nor should ever have been placed upon you. President Serkin, at the last meeting, you politely but firmly stated, come heck or high water, we will reopen on the 19th. Unfortunately, the heck part is here in our hospitals, and the high water is the continued rise of COVID spread, even in our local community. We all want our kids back in school safely. I don't know what you will do on this issue today, and I may not have all the information that you have. But I would borrow from your comment, President Serkin, and ask one thing: to protect our teachers and staff come heck or high water. Get our teachers and staff vaccinated come heck or high water. Our teachers and staff are not just employees. They are mothers and fathers, daughters and sons, brothers and sisters, and in many cases with young children of their own, they are mommies and daddies. Come heck or high water, please protect them. That is the way to help keep our kids safe when they return. All the check boxes on protocol forms, blue tape every 6 feet on the ground, and Super 60 disinfectant are nothing without the teachers and staff to make them effective. When you protect our teachers and staff, that is the big step in making sure our kids are as safe as possible. I think on that we can all agree. Thank you, and Godspeed.
Getting nice and clean.
We're just going to let you start and talk, and then we're ready to just share it with you.
Okay. Well, would someone like to start off? I have some comments, but ultimately.
I'll start, since I
I'll let
went,
you get started.
almost last time, so I'll go first this time. Last time when we were here, I was, looking at the numbers as I do every day, and I was hoping there'd be some metric that would allow us to reopen. The metrics that I found, Torrance Memorial's at 110% capacity. Redondo Beach as a city is at 50 infections per 100,000 people daily, when the old purple guideline, we had to get below 7. And in Redondo, we were down at 4. And then the last one, Sentinella Hospital, on a call that I was on, they mentioned they were ordering their 3rd morgue truck because they were already using their 2nd one. So with that, I just can't approve bringing our teachers back, risking our teachers and our students and their parents and their families and all of our staff until we have some availability in the hospitals or our teachers have the opportunity to be vaccinated. If they have that opportunity, then I'm much, much, much more comfortable, and I would support getting our kids back. Because I want our kids back in person as much as everybody else does.
Go ahead, Mr. Christensen.
Thank you, Brad. There's no question our kids are suffering. I have a high schooler that's challenged with distance learning right now in a big way. We need to get our kids back. But the one thing that I said I would always do would be to listen to the experts. And as I'm sure, Dr. Carroll will be able to share with those who have not read it, I see it's up here. The preeminent expert in our county has given us some very, very direct advice. And it's hard to circumvent that kind of advice. I would like to see us follow that advice and see if we can get through January, see what it looks like at the end of January, and hope like crazy that we have a little capacity in our hospitals, that we have seen some downtick in the positivity rates, and that we at least get a start towards vaccination of our employees. So much like Mr. Waller, I think as much as I had really hoped we could put kids back, I really can't support it until we get a little further towards improvement in these really critical areas.
Okay. When we sat here 2 weeks ago and we knew that the numbers were going to be worse, like it was plain as day, and nothing that I read in the news is surprising at all. And the reason it's not surprising is that people aren't going to change their behavior. So we have, if we keep schools closed, we will essentially have kicked the can down the road. And we'll come back in 2 weeks and kick the can into February and then kick it into March. And all the while, kids as I said, like very plainly last time, kids' mental health is worsening. I can attest to that personally. Kids' learning loss is being exacerbated. I can attest to that personally as well, and I know I'm not alone. You don't read about that in the Daily Breeze every day, but that is just as acute and just as real. And the numbers that Dr. Wilds read out, I mean, these parents are not reckless. They don't have ill intent either for their kids or for teachers. They read the news just like we do, yet, going by grade, 62% of TK, 70% of kindergarten, 79% of first grade, and 80% for second grade are willing to send their kids back on Monday. And anyone who chooses not to, we respect that, and they don't have to. But we want to get our kids back, because not because we desperately, need the free time or we need to work. We see the damage that 9 months has caused, and any additional time continues to cause. And I'm sick of kicking the can down the road. It's not going to get better. And anyone who thinks that is, either hoping or is kidding themselves. So that's all I have to say.
I appreciate your honesty, everybody's honesty. This is hard, no question. Sitting on RTT, we've spent countless hours working on making sure we have all the safety protocols in place, and that's important. And it's like when Lucy puts the football up for Charlie Brown, and he runs as hard as he can, and we're ready, and she moves the football, and we have to change. That's been the experience since March 13th, and we are put in a horrible position, not just us, but everybody. And from day one, I'm proud that this district and this board has done everything that they can to make everybody safe and to follow the public health guidelines. There is a 2-page letter, Dr. Keller, I know you're going to reference it in your presentation. Maybe we should send it out to everybody so they can read it specifically, or at least post it online. Just as I would not want, as frustrated as I am, because I was sitting in an RTT meeting with many of you, almost everybody in this room, getting ready for our return to classrooms when this came out. So again, the football is moved again. And that is the virus, that is the proliferation of what's going on, your reference to what's going on in the community, schools. It even says schools are need to model the recommendation we have for everybody in the community. I know it's awful to keep schools closed. I have 2 children, and without revealing their own personal, it isn't working for either one of them. I doubt it works for anyone. However, we're in a pandemic, and we're doing the best that we can. We will continue to do the best that we can. I think that I would not want to tell public health how to keep people safe, just like I don't want public health to tell me how to teach kids once we're able to do it. I think of staying in your lanes, as frustrating as it may seem. I feel like we've done all that up to this point. I don't see it as kicking the can. We can call it that, maybe it is. I think it's keeping everybody safe and following the best that we have in front of us. And that is what we have in front of us right now. And I know it's hard for everybody, especially kids, but it is, sometimes we have to do what we have to do to keep everybody safe.
Okay, so at the risk of responding, which I'm not responding to the comment, but my comment of heck or high water still stands. And what I mean by that is, I firmly believe that the kids need to come back, and when we had the discussion at the end of December, it was, reflecting on the community at large, where it is. My concern with it is echoing somewhat to what David's saying, with some caveats, but the basic premise is there's never going to be a good time to come back. Our numbers are going up. We are one of only a few states and really by counties that have not reopened to public return. Some of them have gone back to close at this point, but the reality is for whatever reason, everything the state, the county, and otherwise is doing isn't working. And, I read voraciously, I read the CDC, I read the WHO, and all I see is there is no evidence of any significant being less than like 0.1% of community spread with kids going back to school. And, as reflecting of the fact that the community itself, the numbers are out there, and I get it, and I'm not being flippant, but at the same token, it's I will say, and my experience has been, my kid is struggling in distance learning, but the teachers have been fantastic. And so, I want to be clear, this is not a referendum on our staff in their abilities to do things, just mainly being able for kids to just tune out because they're not sitting in a classroom, because they're not as fully engaged before, they're not seeing their peers and what have you, is problematic. And if we decide as a board or give direction as a board today that we don't return, I think I stand by what I said December 30th, and I will stand by it today. We have to look past the numbers, and we have to look at the abilities of it. I think it's hypocritical for us to say it's okay for CDC to go back, for these teachers to have been on campus all through the summer and all the way to now, and at the same token say, but it's not okay for the rest of the staff to go back. It's not ready for our kids to go back. We've spent months now working on ways for, if you don't want to come, you stay home. You can do remotely, and but the numbers itself are very clear. Parents were ready to send their kids back. Ultimately, the will of the board or will of the majority will ultimately prevail. And again, this is really not something we're voting on, we're more commenting on. But I think we need to take a hard look as far as leadership is concerned, as far as deciding when enough is enough. And, the more crackdowns we do, the worse the numbers get. So we're obviously not winning this war. So if we're not winning this war, then we have to go fight the war differently. And, at the risk of being quoted as saying it's a war, it's really more of trying to recognize that we need to find a balance. And, so for my end of it is, it's like, the county has all but said you should close. They haven't said you have to, but they have basically strongly encouraged that it will be frowned upon. if we go back. You know, all of our surrounding districts have or appear to be intending to delay return. Some of them have closed schools already that were open. But the one thing that sticks in my mind more than anything else, and I think we all need to reflect on, is the schools that have opened, their numbers aren't spiking. We're not seeing the spiking in the hospitals because of that. If you look at the age demographic in the hospitals, it still follows suit to where it is. And I recognize, look, there's trucks, I mean, they're bringing more trucks in. I realize we're losing a few hundred people a day. I'm not being flippant about it. But our kids, the CDC, the WHO, every study I've read has said your TK through 2 are not your spreaders. And more importantly, it's the adults that are bringing it into campus. It's not the kids. So, you know, I mean, I think we all need to holistically look and say, what are we going to do differently? And I would further argue and believe, and this is a hypothetical one because we can't do it. If our K through 12 were in schools right now, there wouldn't be the traveling that's going on. People wouldn't be gone for weeks on end. You got people remoting in from other states, from Hawaii, from everywhere else. You know, it's something that I think, you know, we're gonna need to do some soul searching, and I'm not suggesting it's today, but it's I think we all have to recognize that we're all accountable for ourselves. We all have to be responsible, but we can't let the actions of some dictate the policy of the whole. And you know, I'll liken it to the Capitol and what happened tragically last week. It's the actions of a few is turned into, you know, a referendum on the whole. You know, it was, you know, a few hundred disgruntled people that decided to make an action, but now it's a referendum on a party, it's a referendum on a whole bunch of things, and it's too broad brush. And I think for educational purposes, if we agree that we're going to postpone till February, you know, we are 6 weeks shy of 1 year since our kids have been in class. And, you know, but these numbers, they keep saying this, the surges are going to go through the end of February. You know, we can't even get vaccines out in the state. It's, you know, if we wait till the second vaccine and whatever, we'll be looking at end of March, April, after spring break to start again. And we've got, if they're not the spreaders, and they're not even getting vaccines, that's the hardest part. Our kids are not getting vaccines because they're not old enough. So I think we really need to look at it. So anyways, that's my thought on it. So
Yeah, sure, I'm happy to chime in. Yeah, no. You've covered a lot of the ground. I mean, let me be clear from a, you know, district office leadership standpoint. We're frustrated too. I mean, we feel like we're ready. We've done everything. We got the best staff around. You know, we took Mike's words about a little more time to, you know, create even better safety protocols and double down on everything we're doing. We really feel like when that day comes, we're excited to welcome our kids back on campus. We really are. But, you know, Dr. Ferrer's, just to give you a little background, we were surprised with Dr. Ferrer's statement from LA County Department of Public Health late on Thursday. And we did talk about how serious is this, and we did ask for her, if it's this serious, can you put something in writing? And so there was this little, you know, time where it was, would we see that letter or wouldn't we? Because we felt, many superintendents at least felt, that if we saw that letter, we knew it was real. And so we did get the letter later on Friday, and we do have the letter, and we will, whatever we decide today, whatever direction we take, we will attach that letter to staff and to parents. But our recommendation as a team, and my recommendation would be, as frustrating as it is pause the return of hybrid TK2 in person and athletics until February 1st. That would be the first day back for both of those programs. We also want to add, though, one piece with a recommendation, and Ms. Silberling is here to share that. In light of the language in Dr. Ferrer's letter, we want to address some special needs students and populations that might be well served by coming back on the 19th, and I'll let Jessica take it away.
Yes.
So part of the letter was the recommendation that for vulnerable populations and truly high-needs students, that we should limit those in-person services to those populations. And looking at our students, their needs, and what has worked for them so far based on that, we kind of delved into what we would recommend based on Dr. Ferrer's letter and recommendation. Looking at these groups and who can access online and who is most vulnerable, we are recommending that on Tuesday the 19th, the LIFT preschool program return and resume. Our special day classes at Lincoln Elementary School, Adams Middle School, Redondo Union High School, our transition program at the South Bay Adult School, our IPASS program at Redondo Union High School and Patricia Dreisler Continuation High School, and Redondo Beach Learning Academy. Additionally, in the recommendation that Dr. Ferrer references assessments as a piece also that can continue. So in that light, PSAT, which is scheduled for the 26th of January, would continue along with our in-person assessments that our psychologists have been doing the whole time since August. What programs would remain virtual through the month of January are IEP services for students not participating in the programs on the left-hand column. So this includes our Learning Center students, non-SDC students, students who are in our speech-only programs. Those types of students are better able to access our online and virtual programs. Therefore, it would be best to allow them to continue in that manner. Our students for English language learners and supplemental interventions for disengaged learners.
And
I'm sorry, one last thing that I forgot to mention is, the one thing Dr. Ferrer has said consistently, and I've been on 2 calls a week with her, is the schools are doing it right. So, I would only, I'd only say it again, expressing an opinion ultimately where I think we need to go, and if it's not next week, then it's a few weeks, whatever it is, but the one thing they keep saying is the schools are the ones that are doing it right. If the schools are the ones who are doing it right, we have 1,000 kids on campus. It's hard to argue when we look at our numbers. We have, of all the cases that have shown up as positives, I am not aware of one case of spread within the campus. It's strictly been an individual that has brought it to the campus and ultimately identified and done so.
Can I ask a question? Her letter is not an order to stay closed. It's
Correct.
a strong suggestion
recommendation, yes.
from someone with, look, the track record of the pandemic in LA County speaks for itself. So it's in our control whether we stay, whether we open or not.
Correct.
And we're confident that we have the proper equipment, the proper markings, the procedures, the spacing out of the cohorts, the numbers. Yes?
Yes.
So why do we continue to harm kids? Like, why are we not willing to take this risk? Like, life is full of risks, and we've been, in my opinion, way too risk averse. Way too risk averse. And the people who are paying the price for that are kids. And then, like, parents are ready to go back. So as you just said, like, this is not an order to stay closed. Like, the option is still open to us.
Yes.
And ultimately, the risk is ours to bear. So are we willing to bear it or not? I mean, I guess that's the ultimate question.
Sure.
If Dr. Ferrer had given us this opportunity, this choice in August, I probably would have been arguing for coming back in the first of the year. But things are just out of control. It's not just the infection numbers. It's the ICU numbers and the fact that there is a vaccine on the horizon. We've got, our first staff member was vaccinated. So once our members have that first vaccination, that's the big step for me. That really is the big step. That is a hard future thing that isn't 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. It really is a couple weeks away.
Well, it's potentially a couple weeks away, depending on what happens with it. It's the first shot, but if you look at then you can, it's the devil's in the details, because technically it's the second shot 2 to 3 weeks after the second shot administration. And I'm not getting semantics, I'm just having a discussion. It's like, I said on December 30th, and being used, it quoted me as to come hell or high water. It's because we've got to pick a date. We've got to stick with something. I understand the numbers are no different than we thought they would be. If anyone thought we'd come back and the numbers were going to be lower today, I can't see how that was going to happen. It was more, at least for me, was more of a reflection of the community, of recognizing we give the community a pause to see where we're at. The other thing that I've been told, and I'll freely say I'm pontificating with it, but a lot of the surge, if you will, in our local hospitals is bringing people from outside the community. So it's not specifically only our community that's hitting it. We are the only hospitals, being Torrance and Low Company, are the only hospitals. Then again, until we're at the Sentinel. So which the Sentinel is, there's a fair distance away. Some of the areas are overloaded and they're sending them to other community hospitals to do it. But, I have many staff members, friends, ex-clients that are all physicians, and I recognize everyone's tired. So I'm not being flippant about it. I just think that we as a board at some point have to just say, we're gonna do it. We're gonna take a chance. Because we're doing what's best for the kids. And so whether that be next week or whether that be for 2 weeks from now, whatever it is, we have to be reflective, and we're going to have to take some mitigated risk on it, just as we do driving our cars, just as we do going places. There's always an inherent risk of something. But if we can't translate and say, kids, give it to the adults, and that we have community spread within the schools, and we have many states to prove it out that that's not happening, then why are we different here in California than other places, other than our numbers continue to go up, but we're all told to stay home, we're all told to isolate, we're all told to do these things, but our numbers are going up. So when will it stop? I don't believe our schools are going to contribute to the increase, or to the further increase, if you want. The increase is going to happen regardless. That's my opinion, but I think it's bounded by some level of science, because the numbers don't show that the kids going back to school, especially this young population. If we were talking middle and high school, I'd have a different answer, because the middle and high schoolers are proven that they are passing it on to the adults and to parents and to whatever. But that's not the case for TK through 2 that I've seen. I'm free to say I haven't read it, but everything I've read is the alternative. At this age, they're not passing it. So.
Well, I think it's safe to say that there is no absolute here. We don't know anything. We're learning as we go. We're in a pandemic. And I am personally not comfortable getting outside my lane and deciding whether or not the hospital capacity is too large because it's coming from people in or out. I feel like that's what public health is there to debate. And if this is what they're asking us to do just through the end of January, why would we not follow public health guidelines? I don't agree that we're never going to get the numbers down. I can't believe that. I cannot believe with a vaccine on the horizon that we're never going to see a surge, because we didn't have it. And the truth is, as Brad pointed out, we would have, in August, we were almost at less than 1,000 cases a day. So I do believe that we can get back there again, because we already were there. I think it's frustrating because we're in this surge. It's frustrating because nobody seems to want to listen to whatever guidelines is put out, and they quite frankly move the guidelines on us, and that is frustrating. But I am not comfortable putting our staff at risk, taking that risk as a school board right now with this guidance and opening school.
Well, I have a question and then another comment. Question, Dr. Keller. Mm-hmm. On the left column on the slide, about how many more people would that mean on campuses?
I'll let Jessica answer that.
Because they're spread out across a lot of campuses, you're not talking about a large number at any one site. These programs kind of fall at different sites. So when you take, for example, The Lincoln Elementary School, you're talking about bringing back 2 classes of cohorts. They have an AM and PM cohort, and they are about 8 students. I think one cohort has 10 in it. None of them hit 12 students. They're small cohorts. So the number in itself would vary between sites, but it's not large numbers of students.
So if we were to say we have about 1,000 people on campus right now, what would this bump that 1,000 up to approximately?
I don't know off the top of my head. I would say it's much less than 1,000. Probably under 100.
The 1,000 was when we had our
Yeah, when we
student
had
athletes
athletics.
coming on campus,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah,
all
yeah.
paused right
Yeah,
now.
we're all on
yeah.
pause.
Okay.
So this is just the vulnerable population. So a very rough estimate is definitely under 100.
All right,
Yeah.
so we're talking about a fairly small number. There's 2 elements of Dr. Ferrer's letter and that jumped off the page at me. The first was largely because of my profession and what I do in terms of monitoring travel and the correlation between the travel and the surges that we paid dearly for at Thanksgiving. We're seeing the Christmas surge now start to wane a bit, and we're still waiting for the New Year's surge. And Dr. Ferrer clearly said that, we've not yet seen the full impact of travel and social gatherings that have occurred around the end of year holidays. And I firmly believe that, because I've seen that. I've seen that correlation. By the same token, I see hope that as that surge ripples through our community, and I think Dr. Keller said something that I even jotted down, what happens beyond our school sidewalks impacts our schools. I don't see, and I totally agree, David, with you, I don't see spread within our schools. But what I see is communities spread to our schools. And while we're seeing about 21% positivity rates occurring within the community, I see that affecting our schools until that starts to edge down a little bit. And then we have capacity within the healthcare system to deal with it if it comes. And that as we see those positive cases developing within our community, we have the ability through these great measures that we put in place, not the least of which, I believe, is the monitoring and the education, so that if we have a family that's sick, they will stay home. And we have a great opportunity to provide distance learning for that family. I see that kicking in the latter part of January as we see some more of those cases ripple into our community. But the other thing that really worries me is the situation that we saw that occurred in Torrance. And we could easily see that here, and that's we have an opening. We open things up, and I will quote again Dr. Ferrer, limiting all on-campus activities for the next 3 weeks until the end of the month will avoid the inevitable disruption that will affect many of your facilities. So the thing that I worry about is bringing these kids back. We get their hopes up. They get a chance to spend a week or 2 back in school around the end of January. And then because of, again, this high rate and the virus coming into the schools from outside, we find we have to start taking some of these schools offline. And that would occur in early February. How horrible would that be to these kids? To get them back, their hopes are up, they're with their friends, and now they got to go back home for how long? Probably a couple weeks, maybe even a little longer. If we could just avoid that by staying away from the peak of the surge, I'm going to feel a lot more comfortable adding support to a February 1 date, even if, we're still going to have cases, we're still going to have high rates in the community, but I think we'd be on the downward slope of that. And as long as we're on that downward slope, I'm going to feel a lot better about saying we've done our homework, we have measures in place, we can do this. We can do this now. We can do this now a lot more safely.
Well, I am glad to see that we are considering keeping our special program. Just to back up a bit, right now everything is in virtual learning. We don't have any students, and that was because we had that special board meeting and we wanted to make sure that we were giving that pause to travel and that surge. So this is a very small number of people who cannot really receive those services otherwise. And then also in terms of, in the letter, it talks about things that can't be postponed. The PSAT is not something we get to set. And
We
this
don't.
is
The
the
College
absolute
Board sets
last
that.
date, and I'm not comfortable removing that option. It'd be completely voluntary, I hope, and voluntary for proctors as well. We wouldn't be mandating anybody to come back to work, if you say, and to put themselves in that. And given the fact that we have such large space and the number of students, we'd have tiny, we certainly are prepared. We know, we just went through the whole safety protocols, right? We have, and I do think that at the surge, you know, even when you mentioned last meeting that New York City was even open, they have a metric in place that is related to community spread that would trigger open and close. And we've done, it's not been consistent anywhere nationwide. And I don't think anyone has the surge that we have right at this moment either, which is frustrating considering we've been as closed down as we have been. But I have to believe that the vaccines are on the rise. And I'm glad to hear that we have it started and that Dr. Keller is going to get everybody out as soon as we're told that they can have their vaccine, they can go get it. Absolutely. And that's, I think, whatever we can do, and even as far as having it be on campuses, that would be fantastic.
It's surprising for most, but California is actually not in the worst shape of other states in the union. But the other states that are higher, their classes are.
What, with vaccinations?
No, their class, meaning their kids have been in school since September. Their numbers are overall higher, but they're managing the surge, if you will, or managing the higher numbers, but percentage of
Higher numbers
testing.
by population percentage.
Yeah, by number of people per 1,000, 10,000, however you want to calculate it. Their numbers are higher, but their kids have been in school since September, and they're not seeing the community issues related to, staff. I mean, there have been staff members across the United States that have had COVID, but they're not equating it to, I went to class, a kid gave it to me, and something happened because of it. So, but I think we've debated this. I think staff has direction on where to go. Unless someone else has something else to contribute, I think we're.
Yeah, and what we would do, based on your input, is we would send out a letter that we would send to you first to look at after this meeting, and then obviously our leadership team, and then to our staff, and then to our parent community. So all today.
Okay. Anything else?
No, if I just say, this is a gut-wrenching decision. And there's no doubt in my mind that every member of this board is passionately dedicated to these kids. We have a different view on how to get there, but I just wanted to thank staff for working so hard on this issue. This is a tough one.
And I think this sets an example for our community as well, as, sure, we don't agree, but that's okay. We're talking about the problem, we're not talking about each other. So we can disagree with each other and move on and be adults, and, we all are saying what we think is the best idea. So it's not like somebody's, doing anything weird. So I think that, this sets a good example for our students. It sets a good example for the citizens of the community. We are, as Dr. Keller says, we're hard on the problem, soft on the people, and the decision is going to be made that is the decision. And, we will deal with it like adults.
It's not a popular decision, and anybody who thinks that this board doesn't read, anybody who thinks that this board just comes in here and goes, let's see what we do. I can assure all of you publicly, we spend hours, days, weeks, months. I can't tell you the amount of hours I've spent on the phone with parents, with board members, with staff, and with what have you, to get to where we're at. And again, it's we try to base everything on science, on information, and and reflection on beyond our community as well. But we likewise we agree to disagree. But the most important thing is everyone here is for the benefit of kids at the end of the day, and for the benefit of our staff, our community as a whole, We just have a different path of how to get there, so. All right, correspondence. Anyone have correspondence they wish to share? Hearing none, let's start with board member reports. Mr. Whitcomb.
None.
Mr. Waller.
No report today.
Mr. Christensen.
Nothing more to say.
Okay, Ms. Flynn.
It's not a report some more. I do want to talk about what we can and can't do with regard to policing outside of our school grounds. There is a lot of talk and discussion about, people being honest. I think that's come up. We have to be honest when you pay attention to those screener questions, that we have to do our best to follow those guidelines. But what we can do as a school district and is actually possible, whatever we can do to encourage our families to keep all sickness home, to follow these guidelines, I think we should do. But I'm not sure, I guess I'd like to look into what is it we can actually do. We cannot say that we saw you, I don't know, out gathering publicly and suddenly you can't come to school. We can't expand it out into that kind of policing, but what can we do in the future agenda items to actually, if it's add a screener question, I know that's done by beach cities or whatever it is, what can we do to help ensure that we encourage honesty in following the guidelines, I guess is what I wanted to say. And I do think we're all united, and including our staff, that we are appreciative of all of our staff and our teachers, and everybody wants kids to get back to school safely.
Dr. Keller, can I have a request?
Sure.
I obviously haven't seen the letter that you're going to send out, but letters like this in the past have said something like the board gave direction to staff to do X, Y, Z. For this letter, can you say a majority of the board gave staff direction to do X, Y, Z?
It's okay with the board.
It's factual.
Sure.
Okay. I'm reading an email coming in from a parent.
And I would say, we like hearing from parents.
Oh, yeah,
Yes, we
no, no,
spend
I-
hours, but I
it's-
want
no, it's
parents
not.
to
I
know,
mean-
we are completely, you can reach us, please do, because we are all in this together, and we do hear parents.
Yeah, 100%. We read everything that comes in, so we always encourage feedback and thoughts. So, I have nothing specific with the report. I think we've already talked it out. Calendar of events. I noticed one error that we didn't catch before. On the calendar itself, or I should say on the future items, it says that we have a holiday on February 12th. We do not any longer. My recollection was because we shortened because we started late, we got rid of that date. So on the public agenda, the February 12th is not a holiday. We will only have a 3-day weekend on the February 15th for Washington's birthday. But we are not here next Monday for school, at least, for Martin Luther King's Day. We will be back here in 2 weeks on the 26th. We have board meeting on the 9th and on the 23rd. Future agenda items. Anybody would like to add something on there?
If we could just continue to get updates on SoCal Rock, there's a lot of big things going on there at the same time, and I appreciate Dr. Keller. Keep those coming.
Sure.
We will have another SoCal Rock board meeting coming up shortly.
Okay.
And I'll just, President Serkin, I'll just go ahead and when you get to my comments, I don't think we need to make that an agendized board item. I'll just make that as in terms of my regular report. If there's any changes or any progress made on any of those various items, plus what Dr. Keller gives us on the Friday updates.
When are you deciding on your at-large board member?
They're collecting applications in January. We will review those applications as a SoCal Rock board in February and make the determination in March.
Sounds good. Thank you all for your impassioned pleas, statements, or what have you. I'm getting something asking me to read public comment number 18. Just looking here real quick. Just before we go to adjournment, let's.
Do you have it handy?
We work in real time here, so.
I can get it for you if you need it.
I've got it.
Okay.
It's, Public comment 18, let's see here.
I
Dear
see
RBUSD
17.
Board, I am writing to ask that you not reopen schools while we are in the height of the COVID pandemic. Please see the attached LA Times article where Dr. Ferrer is quoted as saying, strongly recommend the schools not reopen for in-person instruction. I'm recommending this for 3 weeks to the end of January. We have made many sacrifices this past year by keeping schools closed, but it has been worthwhile because we have saved lives. If you open these schools now, we will be throwing all of our collective sacrifices away. RBUSD has done a wonderful job with remote learning this year. Children and parents are settled into their routines. It is not worth risking people's lives to reopen at this point. Thank you, Kristen Fredericks. So, I can't say we don't do things in real time here. So, I need a motion and second for adjournment, please.
So moved.
Second?
Student advisory vote? Aye. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.